Yeah. Yeah, they're new though, so gotta be a little patient, I guess. Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight of Rhode Island. I'm Kathy, your host for tonight. We also have Josie Way and Ken Demers here joining me to help co-host of tonight's show. We have Astrid Meijer, excuse me. So we're interviewing her tonight, though she actually grew up in West Germany. She's an import to Rhode Island, like many of us are. She currently lives in Providence. She reads the Akashic. Oh, excuse me. She's an Akashic Records explorer and guide. She doesn't just read them, though. She guides people with it. She's also an intuitive healer and life coach. And lastly, she's a psychic medium. So we got quite the guest here tonight. So for everybody here, can you just talk about what the Akashic Records are?
Sure, yes. So the Akashic Records, sometimes people might refer to them as the Book of Life. So essentially the Akashic Records are an energetic database of all the energy, of all the experiences, of all the lifetimes that we've ever lived. And what we can do is, when we're at a high enough resonance, then we can access the Akashic Records. And because they are our records, we have control over what exists within them. And so if there is trauma or false beliefs or anything that gets in the way, we can go into the Akashic Records, come to understand, and I can talk more about how we do that, but we can shift the energy and actually change things to something that is something positive. So we're no longer bringing forward into our lifetime now or any other lifetimes any of the trauma or false beliefs that were cemented in our soul memory at the time that it happened.
When did you first discover this?
Okay, so I used to attend the First Spiritualist Church of Rhode Island. And as some folks watching might know, there's a guest meeting that comes every week. And so after the fourth one of these guest mediums said to me, "You're supposed to be working with the Akashic Records." I said, well, maybe I need to look into this because these were seasoned people, right? I'm sure everybody has one of those stories when you first realize, oh, wow, there's more and more, it's a life. So I looked into it and I studied with someone who was a seasoned Akashic practitioner, and I've been doing this now for about 6 years. And it's become more and more exciting as more and more people are awakening to understanding that the way that I live my best life is not to figure out how to clear the world or how to make the world a better place, but that it begins here.
Yes.
And it's not just how we grew up, little girls and little boys, and the traumas or the sad times that might have been experienced, but that so many times our beliefs that we play out over and over again come from another lifetime. And more people are asking themselves these kinds of introspective questions. They want to know. I mean, I'm sure that you all in your practices have seen more and more people coming forward for whom this is very new. I love that. I mean, all of us people that are helping people, us light workers, are helping to bring more people into the light, into love, and understanding that we ourselves are responsible for our own experiences in life. That really we can no longer blame the external circumstances because oftentimes, most of the times, we can't change that.
No.
But we can change everything in here. And that's what I get to coach people through. And it's the best job in the world.
Now, who picks the lifetime that you're going to talk about?
Good question. So the way that I work with my clients is, so folks call me. Now, sometimes people have a very specific idea, right? They themselves come in seasoned and they know what they want to do. They might say, I figured out I have the soul contract with someone and I want to do a clearing. So I do clearings with them. But if people come to me and they don't know what it is, but they have questions, let's say someone comes in, I'll give an example. I keep sabotaging my love relationships, or I keep sabotaging my career choices, or my sister and we just can't, get over this conflict. So people come in with questions or with queries, really, or with a list of things that they wish was different in my life. I wish this would just fix itself. And so what happens then is I spend about 45 minutes with them with a consultation prior to the session, and I pull out, with some questions, more of what these stories are. The analogy that I use with people is that oftentimes people are concerned, what if I don't ask the right question, or what if I ask the wrong question? And what we found is that the questions are like sort of leaves or branches on a tree. But with further questioning about what the issue is, it turns out that there's actually a seed belief that gave birth to the tree and then the branches, right? So we're going down to the seed belief. And then the seed belief, meaning I'm not worthy, or I'm afraid of being me because maybe in a past life I was burned at the stake as a witch, so now in this lifetime I'm petrified to come forward to be me out in the world to help people awaken. So what we do is, the way that fear of being truly who we are, it can manifest in relationships. It gets close to love, but then I back up. Or it can manifest in career. I get close to, I get a promotion and then I blow it. Or, my kids are teenagers now and I thought we'd get closer, but no, it's just not, it's crumbling. So we get to the seed belief, and then that's what the question is. So I ask my clients to come to me with one big life question that guides the query into the Akashic Records. In that 45-minute or so consultation, we kind of drill down to the deepest seed belief. We move from the worries in life and we go down with a series of questions and we figure out what that seed belief is for the client. And then the question then becomes about that seed belief, and the way that I ask it is this way. Can you please show lifetimes that will help explain this dynamic or this belief? And then what happens is I'm shown imagery that is kind of like a movie unfolding.
Okay.
Before I go on, what was your question?
Okay.
Yeah.
I go walking into you, and here's this gigantic seed problem, but what I'm asking about is my relationship problem. And so I'm saying, okay, well, what do I do to get a nice relationship? But here's this gigantic problem over here that's really what I should be asking about.
That's part of the coaching, yes.
Which one do you go to?
Well, that's great, because what we do is we try to understand what's up right now. And also always knowing that we might have a conversation now, and the session that you've arranged for might be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And anything can happen in that time. So I always say to clients, you might think that this is what you want to know today, or this is what you want to know today, but come session time, something else might have arisen and we'll go there. And that's completely very flexible. So if someone comes to me and they say, all right, I've got this relationship issue. Let's say it's in a marriage and things are just falling apart. Or they've always felt a little off or out of balance. Or the client is in themselves awakening, and the person with whom they used to be in love when they were at a different level of frequency, of awareness, of consciousness, is no longer a match for them. Because sometimes people grow and their partners don't. And so when there's not a match, because we're no longer in alignment with our highest self and our highest and best being, because we're compromising within a relationship that's no longer meeting our needs spiritually. Sometimes for people, they already know they want to leave, but they just don't know how to do it. And that fear of, I can't leave because I'll break a heart, my kids, how do I explain it to my kids? It means I have to move and figure out how to, live on my own, etc. So then that conversation will move to the seed belief, which is, I don't know how to be on my own, and I'm terrified to be on my own, so I'm going to stay in this relationship. So that was one example, kind of skirted your question.
What I'm saying is that kind of issue would be ongoing, but that's not the main issue. And do you intuitively know that this relationship issue isn't the one you're supposed to talk about? The big thing is seed.
I really work with what Source tells me.
Yeah.
Intuitively, I'm guided to maybe frame things a certain way based on the client's maybe demeanor or the way they communicate. So my intuition will kind of help me, whether levity could be at play, can I be playful about this because of, I'm a playful person, or is this something where people are really feeling trauma? And so that's where my intuition comes in. But what happens is when I am in the Akashic Records, and I've entered the Akashic Records, I'm dissolved. I'm just a recipient of the information, and I've just learned to step away. Well, I just dissolve. I feel like I'm dissolving. I go to like a semi-trance, and what happens is words just come through me. Oftentimes, at the moment of asking the question, before entering the Akashic Records, they change the words in my mouth because the question as posed was not really apropos to the client's healing. So I can give you an example of that. One of my clients came and she had 2 sons, one older, one younger. The older son is 27, he's still living in the basement. So she wanted to know, her question was, I want to know about all the lifetimes I saved his butt, so I'll know why am I doing it now. And she didn't say that, but she said something else. Because she had decided already, she'd learned about enabling, the concept of enabling.
Yeah.
And she knew already, I'm enabling him, I want to know why do I keep enabling him? If I knew why I'd enabled him before, I can answer that question for myself now, and then I can let go of it. But what happened was, as I'm framing the question, can you please show me lifetimes, the question was changed to, can you please show me lifetimes that will help explain the dynamic between her and her son? You see how it's not a leading question anymore? It's a very open and neutral question. Sometimes people come in and they've already made up their minds about what the situation is and they're looking for confirmation. But we all know what Source does.
Yeah.
When we're ready, when we're at a level of readiness, Source will go, oh, don't go so fast here. So they changed it from the answer to, yes, I've enabled him and I want to know the answer to that, to, can you explain the dynamic? And it turns out, the very first, so I asked this, and the very first scene I get is I see an old man in a bed, and I know right away that's the son. The door opens and a younger woman walks in. I know right away this is my client. So they've flipped parent-child roles, right? Mm-hmm. And I know right away he's on his deathbed. I run over. So sometimes I perceive things when I'm in the records as an observer, third person, and sometimes I'm jumping into the body of my client and it becomes first person. So I see her walking in, and then I run over to his bed, and I meaning her, and I'm just pleading with God, pleading, save him. I've brought in all the doctors, I've done everything I can, and then what happens is I can forward time, meaning I can move around the Akashic Records. It's like I can move the timeline. So I forwarded to the point where it was time for his soul to leave the body. And his soul says to her soul, my dear daughter, I'm so sorry that you couldn't save me now, but in a lifetime to come, I will allow you to rescue me. And that's what he was doing every day in the basement, was allowing her to rescue him.
Now, I find that interesting the way you read the Akashic Records, because I've gone to other Akashic Records readers, and granted, the one or two, like one of them was just kind of learning, so she was kind of like mumbling through.
Mm-hmm.
But I also went through another experienced one. So now I understand why you say Akashic Records Explorer and Guide versus Akashic Records Reader, because when I got in the other readings, though, it was just like random lifetimes per se. Mm-hmm. Even though they're not random, though, they're what I needed to know at that time. Yeah. But I like the way you go about the Akashic Records. You're like, okay, what's the purpose? So what's going on? Mm-hmm. What's the repeating pattern in this life?
Yes.
So I like how you do that.
And really, my purpose is for healing.
Yeah.
Now, lots of folks love this so much, they want to know if it's for entertainment. And I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to know if they lived in Egypt or someplace? I love working with people who are curious, but mostly I tend to work with folks that are there for the healing. And so you can only imagine how that mother felt, because suddenly she realized that since middle school, she and her husband were worried about this kid. They'd argued over what had happened, why the one son was so different than the other. And then when she realized that he was honoring a vow, she couldn't wait to get home and love on that kid. She called me the next day. She said, I love my kid again because I realized he was honoring a vow. He wasn't a loser. We hadn't failed him as parents. It was the most amazing thing. Then she called me. She wanted to do the clearing. So what happens is she said, I want to do a clearing on that vow. So then in the clearing session, what I do is I take people through a protocol where they first write a series of I clear my fear of, I clear my feelings of, I clear my son's responsibility towards that contract. I clear the contract, it is now null and void.
Okay, can you just
right?
explain, though, back up a little bit, explain what, honoring a vow means from a past life?
Yes, okay, good. So just like in our life now, when we have a contract, everyone who signed the contract is responsible for it. If one person breaks the contract becomes null and void. The contracts get made as in a vow being made. So if someone has a vow of poverty, because that's the only way to be one with God, or a vow of silence, or a vow of chastity, or any kind of promise on a soul level to either someone else or themselves. I will never do something again. I don't know if you think of anything
kind
right
of on
now.
the spot,
Right,
it's different, yeah.
So, but whatever that is, it gets locked in. Because when you say it, you mean it. And if you mean it, it's part of the Akashic Records.
We manifest it.
Yes.
What
And
did
we
you
live
say?
it.
We manifest it.
Manifest it, right?
We create it.
Yeah, no, okay.
Like, and sometimes it can, so vows and oaths and contracts are made sometimes, like in the instance with the father to the daughter, I promise you, my dear, the next time your wish will be granted, essentially. Sometimes it could be, like one of my clients came one time and her question was, why am I here? Now this was early on, and I freaked out a little bit because I thought Astrid said, that's a really big question. We're going to be here for days. But then my higher self said, shh, just shut up, because that's just the ego talking. That's just the ego being worried that I can't perform. And I realized, oh yeah. And my higher self said, move aside, trust the process. And so then I did. And what was beautiful was I said, okay, can you please answer? Can you please show why she's here? And they showed several different lifetimes. But it was the final one. Well, So the first lifetime was she was a young boy who was always seeking information, a young shepherd boy. And he was always looking up at the stars and always asking, why am I here? Same soul, same question. He tripped over a rock one day, hit his head, and his life ended. So that was one lifetime where his seeking, his query had to come to a sudden stop. The second lifetime they showed was that she was a teenage daughter of a high priestess, and she was learning her gifts. She was learning how to use herbs. She was learning how to use her energy. But it was during the time when the Crusaders were coming, and they were killing all the heathens, right, bringing God to them. And if you didn't convert to Christianity, you were going to die. And especially if you're a high priestess, if you're doing any pagan work, then you're certainly going to be taken and hung to scare everybody who's potentially thinking about doing the same, right? So there was that one. So in that lifetime also, her learning came to a full stop because it had to stop. Then the third lifetime, she was a high-ranking officer in the Crusader army, running hundreds of people, soldiers. And this guy was very proud of what he did. This was a guy who never asked, why am I here? This guy knew, I'm on a mission from God. I'm here to remove the heathens from the world so that God's mercy can spill upon the rest, right? I was in the middle of describing this lifetime, and I heard her say, because I have my eyes closed, no, that could not be me. And she got up and left. And she just left the session. She was so distraught by this. And what couldn't happen at that point was, what if that lifetime, because she said, I'm a gentle soul, that could never have been me. What if that lifetime when she was the Crusader soldier was the lifetime when her soul decided, from now forward I will be gentle? Then she would have gotten an answer. But what happened was, she came again to a full stop in her query, right? That she was self-determined to do that. Now, having said that, Source, the Akashic Records, never tells us anything that we are not at some place of readiness to hear, to integrate, and to heal. I was the one to bring her the information, and I can only hope that she found another person with whom to bring this to closure. But it gives a beautiful example of sometimes we might hear things from the Akashic Records that feel like a shock to our system. That can't be me. Sometimes we recognize ourselves in another lifetime or even a relationship with other people, go, oh, is this just like us? We'd say that all the time. And sometimes our lifetimes look nothing like who we want to be now, who we imagine ourselves to have ever been. And so that's a great example of sometimes it can feel shocking, but don't leave. Wait until afterwards, because after we do the reading, then we do the meaning making. That's the second part of the session, is now we're weaving together all the information that was gleaned from all those lifetimes. And how is this now reflected in these many questions that you had? The seed belief that we're looking at healing, the ways that it manifests in your life. And how have these messages from your other lifetimes helped us to understand a little bit more, fleshing out the picture a little bit? And it's in that meaning making that then, we make peace with it. So that's unfortunately the part that she walked out before we could complete that. But I can only hope, and I know this, that that was complete for her at that point, and that she will continue what she
I've got a
needs to
partial
know.
answer to that. What I've observed and what I've my belief pattern is that we come into these lifetimes for lessons and experiences. And if she had a lifetime of being on one side of the Crusader thing and a lesson on the other side of it, it's to get her soul to have a multi-view of whatever it is. So if you were a slave, if you were a slave owner, if you were somebody that was associated with being a slave, if you were somebody that was helping the slaves escape, it's coming from a subject from all sides of it. And that's what she was doing, coming from it from all sides.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we go forward, we're just about at the end. So how can people get a hold of you for a reading or session?
Yes, well, so I'm going to be, I'm not sure when this is going to be shown, but on March 12th, which is next Saturday, I'm going to be at the Fire Falls Barn Museum Psychic Fair, which is from 12 to 5, and that's in Attleboro. And I'm going to be the speaker at the Spiritualist Church of Love and Light, which runs a virtual Sunday service. And I'm going to be the speaker there on Sunday, March 27th.
Now,
and
I never heard of any of them. Where are they?
Oh, they're online. They have a Facebook page, the Spiritualist Church of Love and Light Facebook page. And they do virtual and in-person services. They're located in Connecticut, so I don't drive 2 hours there. I'm a virtual gal. I'll show up on the and then I'm listed on the Rhode Island Holistic Healers Association website. And that's www.rihha.org.
Okay.
rihha.org.
Now, for people like myself, how about a phone number?
Oh, I have yep, I can give you my phone number. It's 401-617-8074.
Now, I wanted to say, in reference to that last person, what Spirit was telling me is if they really needed to know, they would start, Spirit would work with them, they would start getting dreams to re-examine what you had processed.
Yeah.
They would start the processing, even though she wasn't ready to complete it. They do that.
Beautiful, yeah.
Somebody like myself, I've had hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. I've had people come in from 150,000 years ago. How does that get, and some of them are millions of years ago. How do we separate that? I mean,
Separate, do you mean?
Which lives?
yeah, I mean, how does it?
It depends
they're all-
it depends on the issue that you're coming about. If it's something about relationships, then they'll focus on the most recent ones with relationships. They're not going to go way, way, way back.
Well, some of them do, that's what I'm saying.
Well, they want you to know you're an old geezer.
Well, yeah, I mean,
One time I had, just last week, I do mini readings too, where I give, this has happened recently as I've been tuning up, is that other lifetimes come forward from people and they tap me on the shoulder, meaning someone that's coming forward from you, for you, you from another time, with a message for you. That's been happening more often lately.
Say that
Oh,
again.
that's
So-
interesting.
Somebody from the past who her soul is coming forward to give her
Yes, meaning
a
there's no
lifetime.
question
Okay, that's
needed, no,
interesting.
no question, it's just, she needs to know this right now.
Okay.
And so that's what I get to do when I do the spiritualist church services. Instead of mediumship readings, I'm giving readings, messages from other yous, essentially.
Oh, so
Message
soul
for
level
you.
readings, yes, really
Yeah.
what does that, yeah.
And that's been so exciting because because everything is just so apropos. People go, oh, yeah, yes. But I don't know it. I don't know nothing. I'm just
the
sharing
messenger,
what-
yeah.
You're just the middleman,
messenger.
Yeah, but it's fun to be a middleman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, Spirit used to wake her up at 2 or 3 in the morning to give me messages. She wasn't always happy about that.
Well, you know, one time you were asking about law, the Stone Age, et cetera. I did have several readings where people were living in caves, and that's where
Really?
they lived. And oftentimes those are about survival, about simplicity. They oftentimes are about relationships and about taking leadership. At least in the readings that I was doing was about
Surviving.
living in a family setting, in a tribal setting where there's no government per se, but where how does leadership evolve? And this one person was trying to figure out how they can move more their personal leadership forward and stepping into a role of leadership. And we went all the way back to the lifetime in a cave where he was struggling with, everyone wanted him to be the leader. But he didn't want to take it. He didn't want to be the boss of anyone, essentially. But he was a born leader, and how he stepped into that as one of the younger men. He was not the oldest male, and that would typically fall that the oldest male or female would be a leader. But sometimes Stone Age times do come forward. And just last week, another message came through from someone, and he was a giant. He was like 15 feet tall. And he had a message for
That was a long time ago
Keith,
when
yep.
giants walked the earth.
And he was
Not that long.
He was and he could relate to everything that the messenger that him in that other lifetime as a giant was telling him. It's fascinating.
Okay,
Kinda neat
you
in
only
its
have
own
a few
way.
minutes left, as you can see where the credits are going.
Yeah.
How can people get hold of you again?
So you can find me at RIHA, RIHHA.org. That's the Rhode Island Holistic Healers Association. And you can find so many other people on there. I recommend go to the Rhode Island Holistic Healers Association website. And there are lots of people listed there who are vendors, who would love to assist in your personal growth, in your spiritual awakening, and in your soul's expansion. That's really why we're all here right now. Aren't we lucky to have chosen to come back now to help Earth and humanity?
Well, there's a lot of people
raise
that need our
consciousness?
help.
Yeah.
That's right. And they came here too to have this experience at this time.
Boy, a whole half an hour on Akashic Records. I was hoping to get into over the other stuff though too, but it just didn't happen that way today.
Invite me back.
That's
I
a
think we
given.
will. Yeah.
We will.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So you're also an intuitive healer. So tell me what that's about.
I work with energy. I was attuned to Ilahi Noor, which is an ancient Egyptian goddess religion, and I was attuned to that by a beautiful healer named Kim Testa, who some folks might know, Kimberly Testa. And I use that as a modality, but I just work intuitively. And one time, I used to do the healing chairs at the first spiritualist church.
Yeah.
And one time, one of the folks, she said, whenever I get in your chair, I feel like Swiss cheese, and when I get out, I'm more like a cheddar.
Oh, I like that comparison. Cheddar is very dense, so yeah, that's quite different. It's interesting. And you're a life coach, so how does that interweave with everything else that you do?
Well, listen, I mean, beyond entertainment, and isn't that cool about past lives and reincarnation, I'm here to help people heal. so that tomorrow they can feel better than they do today, so they can perceive themselves as doing the things that they wish to do, that they've always wanted to do, and that they can take responsibility for their own life's quality, not blaming the external, but seeing where it is that they can grow. And I help people to understand within themselves what the resistances are, that's fear, and how to open up to love, because with self-love, anything is possible. And instead of blaming everyone else as a victim, or being a hero, or being a perpetrator, right, in
Yeah.
life, the relationship triad, I want people to be aware of what role they're playing, either consciously or unconsciously,
Yeah.
how to bring their attention back to themselves, and how they can make choices every day with some tweaks in behavior, and with some gentle nudging, and certainly with compassion and again, self-love, how to move along so they can live their very best life.